Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bench. I am one half of your team, Rocco Granado from InLacrosseWeTrust.com, and with me, as usual, from LaxPhilly.com, none other than Gary Grube. Gary, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing very, very well, Rocco. Very, very well. It was a weird end to a weird season. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, very weird, we'll say. I mean, it went... the last, the every playoff spot in the East wasn't decided until the final game of the season. We haven't had that for a long time. I mean, we've had it where the final playoff spot has been decided, but not all three playoff spots in one division, as well as who's going to finish in first, who's going to finish in third, because there was no, anybody could have finished in first, second, or third, and all five teams were still in it up until the last game of the year.
Oh, exactly.
And now
we got a little bit of strange news also here out of Toronto. Strange, but not strange, because it's kind of been known that Josh Sanderson has left his assistant general manager's position with the Toronto Rock to go and join his buddy Pat Merrill over in San Diego. Him and Bill Greer are going to be the assistant coaches on the San Diego Seals team.
Yeah. Now, I said something about that earlier in the year, and I said, do you think Shooter would go there, to be a GM or a coach or whatever? And you told me he was still the assistant GM in Toronto, so I kind of put it to the side, and then when I saw his name, I'm like, oh wow, it must be.
Bill Greer to go there because Bill Greer and Pat Merrill, they do the Six Nations team in MSL in the summer, and they work. Pat Merrill is the head coach. Bill Greer is the defensive coach. So that was no shock at all. I expected that. The Sanderson one, I was a little surprised because that's taking a step backwards. Going from assistant GM over to an assistant coach.
Assistant coach, right.
But it's maybe a little sunnier over in San Diego.
Maybe. And maybe he's, I don't know, maybe he wasn't doing as much as he thought he would be doing as assistant GM. Yeah.
Which brings another question in Toronto is Jamie going to be the Jerry Jones of lacrosse? And I'm not saying that as a compliment.
Right, where he's going to run everything.
Right.
Where he's going to do everything but stand behind the bench, and he may just do that.
Right.
And maybe
his own podcast with the Rock, he was pretty uncommitted about that, except that the coaches were all under contract, which scares me also.
Right.
Because if we get a summer of Stan Pat, that's not going to be a very good summer.
No, it's not, and knowing the Toronto fans like I do, they're not going to be all too happy.
No, I can guarantee you that.
Because they want changes, and you as a season ticket holder for I believe I want to say day one with the Toronto. Okay, you're kind of like I am. You're
Raiders and Hamilton, so
right. Okay, and I've always been a Wings season ticket holder up until the day they moved, and new team comes in December. I already have my tickets reserved, paid for, everything. So I'm picking right up where I left off. And, looking at it from a fan perspective, the Toronto season ticket holders, the fans, the diehard fans there, they're going to want changes. This is totally unacceptable for the Toronto Rock fans. There's no way this team should have been where they were, how they finished, how they played in half of these games. I mean, we've talked about it, I don't know how many times, Gary, that, some of the shots they were taking were from my backyard into Toronto. I mean, that's how far outside the defenses were pushing them, and even when they weren't pushing them, they were still taking them from the outside. I mean,
the whole thing was ridiculous, and, you had an idea of a team that had either bad ideas or no ideas, and that became pretty frightening.
Yeah,
something has to give.
Yeah, I mean, you had the one game where they did everything right in the first half, Then they came out in the second half and did the total opposite, and they ended up. I think they lost that game. I mean,
and a lot of the times teams will readjust, and they won't bother to readjust themselves.
No,
I went through that, and we all went through that with the Lovell years, and that's why he got his butt fired.
Yeah, I mean, the only time they adjusted was when they played good in the first half. They adjusted and played bad in the second half, and it cost them the game. I mean, but when you look at the whole Eastern Division, okay, how many times, you look at New England, for example, when they lost those 4 in a row, okay, they went, after they started out 4-1 during the beginning of the season, in their next 9 games, the middle 9, they went 2-7. Okay? 2 wins, 7 losses. And not one other team in the East could bury them, could push them so far back that they wouldn't have a shot at the playoffs. I mean, maybe it was the way the schedule fell, where they were playing Western Conference teams or whatever, and they couldn't make any headway, or they were playing against each other, in the division, and it would just kind of keep them on an even keel. But you add a team that went 2-7 in those middle 9 games after starting out 4-1, you would think they would be somewhere out of it, but they were no more than a half game out of first place.
Yeah, you have a team like Toronto where Schreiber goes down, and then the whole team goes into the toilet, which makes no sense at all to me. Yes, he's a great player, probably the best going right now, but the entire team tanks because he's out of the lineup?
Right.
Seriously? Something needs to be revamped.
Yeah, big time. I mean...
Or everything.
And then
the one thing I would say is safe is the defenseman. Because defensively, with the exception of the last game where everybody went to sleep, they were the ones that held it all together, and transition was doing all the offense.
Right.
Defensively, they weren't doing anything. And that's where they had all the firepower. Yeah, that was the big hurrah this year, was look at the offense. It wasn't look at the defense, but look at the offense. And for all the Nick Groves bashers, yeah, he had a bad game, probably the worst game of his year, but he was not the reason.
No, far from it.
Toronto lost any of those games before that one.
No, far from it.
So if that's what you're resting your laurels on, sorry, you're wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about this earlier, in previous shows when some of the trades went down. Okay, when you had Stephane LeBlanc go to New England, and oh God, who went to Toronto? I can't even remember now.
Sheldon Burns came to Toronto.
That's right, Sheldon. Yeah,
he took a cheap shot in the Rochester game, and that set him out for the Colorado game because he was a spark plug on transition.
Right, but I remember us talking about
the gentleman, the ever clean, ever popular Eric Fennell.
You're right.
He might as well be wearing a bullseye.
Yeah.
Because I imagine long memories next year.
Yeah.
Or MSL. Same thing.
Same thing, yeah. But I remember us talking about, who won that trade, and I can't even say that New England won that trade. You just can't. You really can't say it until you get a full season out of the players. But you look at LeBlanc goes from Toronto to New England. Sheldon Burns goes over to Toronto. Then you had Sean Evans go to Buffalo, and Callum Crawford come over. Everybody that they traded, they got rid of, is now, sitting at home. But I'm not saying that, New England won those trades. I'm just trying to figure out the division.
Crawford's done nothing in New England, and LeBlanc did the same thing in Toronto.
Right.
He should be scoring, and he becomes the quietest big body out there.
Right, and what they did in when New England won in Rochester, I said it, on that show that they're going to slide a second defenseman over to cover Crowley, and they're going to say you're going to have to beat us with everybody else, with the Kyle Buchanans, with the Callum Crawfords, and players of that nature are going to have to do it, and they did, and that's how they kept themselves going. What it's going to hold now going into the playoffs, we'll have to see. It's going to be quite interesting. So let's look at what we had last week and how things started shaping up prior to everybody who ended up getting into the playoffs. First game we had Vancouver at Georgia. This was a game where if Vancouver won, everybody would have still been biting their nails going through the rest of the games on Saturday and Sunday. Because this would have threw the playoff scenarios into a whole turmoil with what was going on. Because there would have been all different kinds of things that would have had to happen for this team to be put in and eliminated, and who would get first, who would get second, and everything else. But as we see, Vancouver had a 7-3 lead at the half. And
it was kind of strange, but Georgia started out quick and then got up to a 2-0 lead, and I thought, okay, this is the way this is supposed to turn out.
Right.
I was shocked when I flipped back and seen it was 7-2 at one point.
Yeah, I mean,
and 7-3 at the half.
I mean, Vancouver scored 7 straight goals. Where was this team 17 games ago?
That was the team that showed up in the third quarter.
Exactly, yes.
The team that can't play 60 minutes at any given point.
No.
Barely played 30 minutes in this game and still almost came away with a win.
Yeah. Somebody forgot to tell them you got to play 2 halves, not 2 quarters.
Well, exactly.
I mean, and Georgia just, put the
a little strange that Brian Cole in the third quarter at 5 minutes and 27 seconds scored an empty net goal.
Yeah, it was a little strange.
I guess desperate times call for desperate measures.
And that ended up tying the game. I mean, that's
another one that makes you scratch your head out of the annals of Vancouver play.
Yeah, and it was just typical game. I think Georgia was playing this game not to get hurt, and I think they knew that they could win this game at any point in time. I mean,
we also had to remember that they were playing the next night, and that game might actually mean something.
Right.
Whether it be first place, third place, or any place.
Right. Well, yeah, that game Sunday meant everything.
Right, because the silliness in Colorado hadn't happened yet.
Right.
So they had no idea how to gauge that.
Right, but they knew if they won the game, if they would be,
they would be in, yes.
Right, they would automatically be in. But for them to be actually out of the playoff picture, they would have to lose both games. Buffalo would have had to win, and Toronto would have had to win. So there was
nothing was decided, and they were losing 7-2.
Right.
So at that point they were actually legitimately losing.
Losing, right. And then they just come back. They play their style of ball, and what I find kind of funny is Small scores the last goal of the season for Vancouver. How appropriate. And Miles Thompson scores at 8:23. That was the last goal of the game. So for the next 6.5 minutes, nobody got a goal, which was kind of, interesting. Yeah, you asked me. I mean, trying to figure it out because you had Matt Beers went off for an illegal cross check, so you had a power play there for Georgia. Then Reese Dutch at 12:07 got a 5-minute goalie interference major at 12:07.
If you saw the play, it was nonsense.
Yeah.
Like, I understand trying to protect the goalies, but in the context of shooting, there has to be some leeway. That was nonsense.
Yeah.
Anyways, Georgia's power play was anemic at 1 for 6.
Yeah, 1 for 6, and they allowed a shorthanded goal along with it. So basically, they went 0 for 6.
Amazing.
Because of that was shorty, but they ended up winning 11-10. It says, I don't know if it's true or not, 5,248 was the attendance.
Only if you were drunk and seeing triple.
Shots on goal, Georgia 57-45. Face-offs went in Vancouver's favor, 13-11. You mentioned about the power plays. Vancouver 2 for 4, Georgia 1 for 6. So with that win, not only did Georgia clinch a playoff spot at that point, but it was also, we were still waiting for the other game to finish to see whether or not New England would go ahead and clinch and or Rochester would clinch. So we already knew Vancouver was out of it long ago. They finished the season at 2-16. Will obviously have not the number 1 pick, but the number 3 pick in the draft after Philadelphia and San Diego, depending on how that coin flip goes. And Georgia clinches a spot. Now, at this point in time, Georgia is holding on to first place. They had to wait till Sunday to see what would happen. The next game that we had, you had Rochester at Buffalo.
And this was an interesting game because the loser could be eliminated on either side. Buffalo straight out if they lost were gone. Right. Rochester could be eliminated with a few other crazy things happening, which didn't happen, but anyway.
Right, so it was
quite a meaningful game.
Right, so it was more of Rochester wins, they're in, and they clinch a number 2 seed. That was a definite. They couldn't get number 1 because of Georgia winning. But if Rochester would win, they would clinch, a 2nd seed. And then they would have to wait and see who they would play. And this was
the biggest crowd that Buffalo had of the year. Over 19,000 people were there.
19,000, yeah, 19,070. And,
yep. And appreciation night.
And it was a play. This was a playoff game. Mm-hmm. Even though it was the last game of the regular season, it was a playoff game. And typical.
This is a weird game because it was going back and forth. It really reminded me of the Calgary game that they played a couple of weeks ago. The first half was absolutely crazy, where Buffalo got a couple of goals out quickly, and it looked like they were off to the races. And then all of a sudden, Rochester came back, and they got it from some odd people. Well, Cody Jamieson, a normal guy to score, but then Paul Dawson with a transition goal, which was, again, something that doesn't happen very often. Jake Withers, also something that doesn't happen very often, with a transition goal. And then Mitch Jones comes back for Buffalo, and Cody Jamieson comes again. So we got a close game. We're 4-3 after 1. We're 8-7 at the half. Now, here's the thing that made it look an awful lot like that Calgary game. It looked like they were going in 7-7. Sean Evans had tied the game up at 14:08 of the second quarter, and Buffalo's defense took a minute off. They just plain didn't cover Brad Gillies, and he went in all alone with 2.6 seconds left and scored, and absolutely deflated a building going into halftime.
Well,
it made no sense. I don't know where the defense went. They went for, everybody went for a change, and nobody bothered to come out and move, and it cost them a goal. And the same thing that happened in the Calgary game a few weeks back, where they scored with 0.6 seconds left in the half, and it absolutely deflated that team, and they came out flatter than a pancake. This time around, Mitch Jones scored 29 seconds in, and I thought, okay, maybe Buffalo found a way, and whatever was said inside was cool, and they were tied. And they went back and forth again, Kyle Jackson for Rochester and Sean Evans for Buffalo, and then all of a sudden, Buffalo went to sleep. It's like this game didn't mean anything. And Rochester wheeled off the next 5 goals in a row. Kyle Jackson, Austin Shanks, Joe Ressateras, who broke Tom Schreiber's points record for an American player in this game. Kyle Jackson again, and Joe Ressateras again, taking us into the beginning of the fourth quarter. All of a sudden, this game is a blowout. And you're thinking, wow, what happened to Buffalo? Unlike the Calgary game where Buffalo folded up their tents and basically got on the bus and waited for it to be over, I guess they were reminded that to get in the playoffs, they needed to win this game. And sure enough, they made their big push comeback, and Thomas Hogarth, Josh Byrne, Mitch Jones, and Dane Smith all scored 4 in a row, and that brought the score to 14-13 with 1:06 left in the game. Thinking we have a barn burner coming down here.
Yeah, the big
until with 19 seconds left, Kyle Jackson put an empty net goal in and made it 15-13, and that sealed Buffalo's fate.
Man, the big thing there is Dane Smith's goal was shorthanded. That was on a 5-minute high sticking major.
Yeah, so there were opportunities. It wasn't the way Buffalo should have come and played this thing, and it's inexcusable that they gave up a 5-goal run from the 10:56 mark of the third quarter until the beginning of the fourth quarter, and that 5-minute escapade cost them the game and the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it
seems to be the story of Buffalo's down the stretch game. The same thing with Toronto. The week before. And all of a sudden they're getting killed by shorthanded goals, something they never did all year. The Calgary game, where they went entirely to sleep in the second half and just had it handed to them. And now this game, where they go to sleep for 5 minutes and have it handed them and they can't battle their way back all the way. And now they get to watch the playoffs from home.
Home again, yeah. I was at an arena football game Saturday night while this game was going on, but I had it on my phone. And there was a guy sitting 2 seats away from me, saw what I had on the phone when, you saw Brad Gillies go right on down the floor. And he watches him go right on in, takes a shot and score. His first words are, aren't they supposed to check him?
You think it was a penalty shot or something like that? It made absolutely no sense.
I was like,
even Randy Mearns is going, well, they just absolutely went to sleep.
Yeah, I said, yeah, they're supposed to check him, but that's Buffalo. I think they forgot that they had to play 15 minutes and not just 14 minutes. He's like, wow, he just literally went in untouched. Nobody touched him. I was like, yeah. I said, it wasn't a penalty shot either.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, and a lot of explanations need to come for that one. It is what it is, and they're going to have a long summer.
Yep.
To look at.
And then, of course, Sean Evans gets a slashing with 3 seconds to go in the game. That was just flat out, frustration there. But when you look at the scoring breakdown, Evans had his hat trick. Mitch Jones got 4 goals. Jordan Durson with 2 and 3. Dane Smith with 2 and 3. So the normal people are there scoring. Mark Steenhouse, 0 goals again, just 2 assists. I don't know what his future is right now. I mean, I know he's been playing hurt. His body has taken a beating over the last few years. But we'll have to see what happens there. On Rochester's side, a number of people with goals, but Kyle Jackson with 4 and 4, Cody Jamieson 2 and 2. Then you had Corey Vitarelli, Jake Withers, Brad Gillis, Graham Hosick, Paul Dawson, all with a goal apiece. And then Austin Shanks and Joe Restaris, each with 2 goals, and Restaris with 4 assists on the night. So, you had pretty good balance scoring there. They did what we thought they were going to do, Gary. They did start Zach Higgins. He played.
Yeah, they did, and then they replaced him because he was the beneficiary of Buffalo not playing in that 5 minutes.
Right. I mean,
at the end of the third quarter, just after the Kyle Jackson goal, they replaced him with Alex Bouquet for the rest of the game.
Yeah. So I don't know if that.
He did not play bad.
No, I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Maybe should have put him back in maybe after a little bit. I don't know. I guess it was more or less to put a spark out there and to see what would
Well, they're in the midst of a 5-goal run. 4 goals had already gone in less than 5 minutes. They needed to do something.
Something, yeah, but nothing happened on that. Rochester ends up winning this 15-13. Clinching a spot in the playoffs, clinching a number 2 seed. Now, at this point in time, Rochester is obviously back celebrating. Yes, they won. They're in the playoffs. They know they have a home game. They just don't know who are they going to face. Because it could be any one of 3 teams at this moment. It could be Toronto. It could be New England. Or it could be Georgia, all depending on what happens in the games. But obviously, they have to take care of their situation. But real quick, Shots on goal were fairly even, 59-58 in favor of Rochester. Loose balls, 80-70 in favor of Buffalo. Both teams only had a handful of power plays. Rochester 1 for 4, Buffalo 1 for 3, and Rochester with the face-offs 20-12 for the face-off victories. And like you said earlier, Gary, the attendance 19,070 were there, the biggest crowd of the year. And I know that
Buffalo brought their average attendance up to almost 15,000 for the year.
Yeah.
Because of the slow start with the early December start this year and Christmas season and all the rest of it, where everybody had a little bit of a rough start. So, yeah, Buffalo got almost 15,000 as an average. So, very, very healthy franchise.
Yeah. So, but unfortunately, they're not into the playoffs. With the loss, they were automatically eliminated. You could chalk it up to a number of things. The inconsistency with the goaltending. Maybe the trade partway through the season, trading Callum Crawford and getting Sean Evans. Was it, something was going on? We still know something going on in the New England locker room that caused the trade, and Buffalo was willing to take him, and they gave up, Crawford for it. Maybe both teams felt these two players needed a change of scenery. We don't know. But the goalie inconsistency was a big thing. I thought this year, and I'm going to be honest, I thought that Alex Bouquet would be a big-time player because he showed that he could play when he was in Colorado. And I thought
he did a little bit there, and in the summertime he had a good one with a smaller net.
Right,
and all of a sudden he looked like the next coming of Matt Vince. And we gave him back the NLL size net, and he had a little bit more trouble. Yeah. He also had a better defense out in the WLA than he did here in Buffalo. Yeah. And I mentioned it at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the season that I wasn't very impressed with the Buffalo defense. And they proved me right. Thank you very much, boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, the brightest spark was when they put Bill O'Brien back on there, because he played positionally damn near perfect. He was never caught out of position. He was aggressive all the time. I think he took 2 penalties altogether in the 3 games he was in, and one of them was at the brouhahas at the end of the Toronto game, which in my eyes doesn't count. And even the one he got in this game was, nonsensical anyways.
Right. And,
that said, for the guy who's the enforcer and the big bruiser who was playing in New England, somewhere along the line he did his homework. He had mentioned he had talked with some of the elders, the Brett Buckhus and guys like that, about staying power in the league, as well as all the training that he did.
Right.
And you know what? He worked on his foot speed. He worked on his ball control. He worked on his stick control. And he's there. If you want to go, he's good to go. He's very happy with that. But if you're playing, he's gonna demand the respect in his zone, in his area.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just that, and he got just that.
Yeah.
And he played his zones perfectly. He also played the lanes perfectly. Very seldom do I see him anywhere near being out of position. So, Buffalo should be looking at trying to re-sign him before other teams go and start scooping.
Yeah, well, he is a free agent. Free agents are allowed to talk to other teams, and vice versa. Teams are allowed to talk to the free agents starting on July 1st. Then on August 1st, free agents can be signed. Free agents are not eligible, and I'm going to say this again, they are not eligible to be selected during the expansion draft. Only players that are left unprotected. That means the players that are under contract that are being left unprotected. So if you're a free agent, you don't have a thing to worry about them leaving until August 1st if they sign with another team. But a free agent cannot be selected during the expansion draft. So we'll have to wait for those lists to come out to see, who's unprotected, who's protected, and we'll get to know who are all the free agents and things like that. We know that Bill is a free agent because we've talked to him, and if Buffalo wants him, he'll be more. I think he said he'll be more than happy to sign a contract and play there. Otherwise, he'll go wherever he wants to go. You would like to see him in Toronto. I'd like to see him here in Philly because, hey, he is a Flyers fan, so it would be perfect, you know? Have him here, see what he can do. But we'll have to see how that goes. See who'll get signed as free agents, who's going to get picked in the expansion draft. And still have all that to go through yet. So now we move to
the most frustrating game of the night.
Yes. I'm glad you said it and not me. Toronto at Calgary.
It's absolutely inexcusable. When this is a game that you know you have to win, and this is the total effort that you come up with, it's inexcusable. When you give up 4 shorthanded goals, you don't deserve to win. I don't care what happens in the rest of the game. You give up 4 shorties, you deserve to lose.
2 of them within a minute.
Period. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And, what's even more sickening is 3 of them happened in the fourth quarter. A quarter where this was still a winnable game. So, for a team that looked like they had it right and came out on fire and in the first 6 minutes took a 3-0 lead, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, Adam Jones had 2 of those 3 goals. Thinking, wow, maybe the offense has found it this time. Maybe they actually see the importance of this game. Maybe the coaching bill is different because they're crashing the net. I'd be wrong. Because all of a sudden, before you could sneeze, it was 3-2. Now, Toronto did wind up 4-2 at the end of the first, with Reed Reinhold getting another goal. And then we had a Tom Schreiber sighting. He hadn't had a goal in 2 games. And 40 seconds into the second, he got a goal. And Jeremy Noble took Toronto to task and made him pay on a power play. Not once, but twice in that span of 3 minutes. A sandwich in between that was a Dan Lindner goal. Very nice to see Dan in the lineup. I really don't understand why he sat for so many weeks, considering that he only crashes the net every time he's out there and only scores and stuff, for offense and stuff and things.
And you know what? I've wondered that too at the games I've watched.
You got to let him play left press box if he's scoring, because we can't have any of that. Not on offense. Again. And so, anyways, at this stage, Colorado puts it together, and they score 5 of the next 6 goals to end the second quarter. And all of a sudden, we have an 8-7 game for Colorado. Still very attainable, but the momentum has now gone to the Colorado side.
Right.
And, again, Toronto ties it up 41 seconds into the third, and then goes to sleep for a little bit. Colorado takes 2 goals. Toronto actually puts together a run. Dan Lindner with a hat-trick, Brett Hickey sandwich in the middle of that, and Toronto actually has the lead in this thing. And then they go back to bed. And Colorado puts 5 in a row up. And the rest of it, they say, is history, because when the handed stuff happens, that's when Colorado takes over the game, takes over the momentum, takes over the whole flow.
Well, wasn't
yes, Edwards got a goal, and yes, Brett Hickey got a goal, and yes, even Adam Jones got a goal in the fourth quarter. But by that point, it was already said and done.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a 5-goal run, Gary. That was where they had the 2 shorthanded goals in with those 5 goals.
Yep.
So that's basically...
And then 2 more, not 3 and 4 minutes later.
Right, and not only is that just, you got 2 shorthanded goals, but you're taking 2 power play goals away. So that's almost like outscoring them 7-2 instead of 5-0.
Well, just the simple fact that in a game where you need to win, and your special teams are so special that you give up 4 shorthanded goals, let alone are futile on a power play for yourself. Well, pretty much this is a result that you deserve.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I wasn't all that broken up when the thing was over, because the effort that I saw, you just saved me the embarrassment of being blown out in the first round against Rochester. Because playoff Rochester and season Rochester are 2 different Rochesters.
Yeah.
And New England's going to find that out this week, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But that just saved me having to sit through that. And having to travel 3 hours there and sit and do it live. So, a number of, in my eyes, a number of bonuses happened there. in a row can I go through this?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
You can be positive all you want. I've been positive all year. I've picked him every game this year. And more often than not, I've seen this kind of effort. It's half effort. Maybe 30 minutes of the game you're giving me, full out. Well, I start at the top always. I've said it with Vancouver. I've never gone after the players. I've gone after the management and the coaches and everything else. And I'm doing the same thing here in Toronto.
Yeah.
As much as I like Jamie, as much as he's a great owner, I don't think he's a very good GM. As he has all the total power as GM now, something has to change.
Yeah. And
the Orangeville 12, which is now the Orangeville 11, that needs to be broken up also. And, now that Terry and Josh are both gone from the Rock organization, it's time to start taking a look at some of the U.S. boys. It's time to start taking a look at some of the native boys. It's time to start looking at other people. Other places.
Yeah, because something has to be done.
Coaching-wise?
Yes.
I don't think that Matt Sawyer is the answer. I sure don't think that Blaine Manning is the answer. How many years have we been now? 5?
Yeah.
The coach?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Really, there's only been 1 year where the offense did anything. And most of the time it was the stand-pat offense that had no readjustments, that shoots from the middle of nowhere and hopes that if they use the goalie's crest on his chest, that maybe he'll move from that spot and it'll go in. And that needs to be changed.
Yeah. Now the big thing is what players would be protected on that team.
Well, listening to Jamie the other day, he has a rough idea in his mind who's being protected and who's not. He was still up in the air about a couple. At this stage, does it really matter?
Well, you know you're going to protect Schreiber.
You know that Schreiber's going to be protected.
Right, and you know Jones is going to be protected.
Mm-hmm. You also know that Lindner or Hellier will be protected.
Right, what about Hickey?
That, I don't expect to see McCardle protected. I don't expect to see Reinhold protected. I don't expect to see a Brad Cree protected, to tell you the truth. And that's just my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's so many that can be protected, so many might not be. It's they can leave Brandon Miller exposed, and don't worry. Right. I don't think he's going to get picked up. There's other goalies in the league that can be picked up that are better. Right. And it's close to home for him to be there, and he only has maybe another year or two left, and that's really it. So,
it's not like he played this year.
Right. I mean, if he would go anywhere, Philly might, go after him as a veteran backup. So who knows? Maybe that might happen. So.
Well, I know that the Rock do want to get Riley Hutchcraft in there.
Right. So
he's going to be playing in Mimico again this summer because he's got one more year left in junior. That's how young he is.
Wow.
I talked to him after the Buffalo game for a little bit, and so he's going back to Mimico this summer, play Junior A, which is going to be a very competitive league this year too. Don't forget that Brampton still has Jeff Teed on the team, right? Yeah, who's been setting the league on fire at Cornell all through it, and week after week is Player of the Week. So both field and box, we have another Tom Schreiber on our hands.
And if used the right way, hey.
Well, it's not like he didn't grow up with the game since his dad Dan played for the Bandits. He's also coaching the Brampton Juniors.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bloodline's there.
Imagine learning the game, playing catch with John Tavares. Does it get any better than this?
No.
Anyways, getting back to the brass tacks of this debacle.
Yeah, it was just.
Toronto went 1 for 4 on the power play, which meant nothing because they gave up 4 shorties.
4 shorthanded goals in Colorado.
2 for 4 on the power play, which again meant nothing because they scored 4 shorties. Toronto outshot Colorado 57-46, but it might have been 46-20 if you took away the shots from damn near Oakville. Loose balls, Colorado out-loose ball Toronto 79-58, and walloped them on the face-offs because for some reason they don't want to use Brad Cree on face-offs and they use Jordan Magnuson most of the time, and they won 27 out of 38. So, again, things that make you go, huh?
Yeah, and it's just...
Because the one face-off that Brad Cree took, he won.
He won it, right.
So, of course, we'd have Jordan Magnuson taking, 36 and winning only 10.
10 of them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Like everything else that this team has done lately makes perfect sense to me.
And then, you got the scoring breakdown. Adam Jones, 3-3. Brett Hickey, 2-1. Rob Hellier with 6 assists. No goals, but 6 assists. Littner, 4 goals and an assist. And Reed Reinhold, 2-2. And Schreiber with 2-5.
So obviously you understand why Dan Lindner spent about 5 or 6 games as a healthy scratch in the press box, yeah?
Yeah, he only puts in 4 goals. That's all. So
week after week, right?
Yeah. And then for Colorado, you had Benesh with 2-3.
He only had 8 shots, right? But he got 4 goals.
4 goals, yeah.
The press box.
Rouet with 2-5. Keogh only a goal and 4 assists. Noble 3-3. Eli McLaughlin and Joey Caputo each with 3 goals and 2 assists, and Zach Greer also at the same line, 3-2. So it looks like Zach Greer got rid of the rust finally. But we'll see what Zach Greer shows up this week in the playoffs.
Yeah. They're not playing a farcical team. They're playing Calgary.
Yeah. So with that loss by Toronto, that eliminated them. So both Toronto and Buffalo are now eliminated, and we now know that Rochester is a number 2 seed. Georgia has clinched a playoff berth, and by virtue of Toronto losing, New England has clinched a playoff berth, which means that on this past Sunday, the loser of Georgia-New England would be the 3 seed and would have to face Rochester, and the winner would obviously be the Eastern Division champs during the regular season. But before we had that game, we had one game that really didn't mean a whole heck of a lot at all.
Other than it might be your division finals.
Right. Based on past history.
Based on present blame, tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Because Colorado really didn't impress me by giving up 15 goals to Toronto, being the defensive juggernaut they're supposed to be. When they actually play a team like Calgary who has some offensive prowess, that's going to be a real nightmare for them.
Well, that's not the only nightmare. There's going to be another nightmare that I'm going to mention when we get into that game. But this game was basically, nobody wanted to get hurt. We mentioned about Calgary wanting to make a statement of some sort, whether it was to win the game or just to say, hey, we can, be right there with you the whole time. And this was just a typical.
Which statement would you like? Curtis Dixon's 3 goals and 4 assists. Holden Catoni's 4 goals, 1 assist. Dane Dobby's 1 goal, 4 assists. A few statements there.
Well, Dixon 3 and 4 is normal. Catoni 4 goals, I would call that a little bit of a statement. And then you look over at Saskatchewan side. Matthews a goal and 6 assists, typical night for him.
With that 6 assists, he also set the record.
He set the record, right.
For the National Lacrosse League.
Right. Ben McIntosh, 4 and 2. Dan Dawson scored as many goals as his brother did earlier in the night with a goal.
It's nice to see him on the floor because he's been a healthy scratch for a number of games.
Yeah. Robert Church with a goal and 3 assists. Keenan with a goal and 3 assists. Dinsdale 1 and 2. So it was all spread around, but Big Ben with 4 goals and 2 assists. So it was kind of
Here's the thing that enthused me a little bit. We're tied 5-5 at the half, and then Saskatchewan does what Saskatchewan does, and they pull away in the third, and all of a sudden it's 9-6 after 3. But Calgary didn't fold up the tents and go, well, that's it for the season, and we'll get into the playoffs. Calgary made a big push in that fourth quarter, and damn near came back, scoring 4 goals to Saskatchewan's 2 in the fourth, and wound up just losing 11-10.
Yeah, it was 11-10 with just under 4.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, but you have some pretty decent goaltending there.
Yeah,
on both sides.
So it wasn't where final score was 11-10. They scored the last goal with a couple seconds left. No, there was still a good 4 minutes left, and with both these
Saskatchewan's
teams,
known for, right?
yeah,
Very solid defense, very stifling defense, and that's exactly what they did when they needed to. There's not a better team in this league of winning one-goal games than Saskatchewan.
not at all.
They've proved it time and time again. So, it's going to be interesting come the run. Shots on goal, 46-43 in favor of Calgary. Loose balls barely in favor of Saskatchewan at 73-69. And the faceoffs were just about even. Calgary with a slight edge, 13-12. Now here's the big thing. Calgary went 2 for 7 on the power play. They did have a shorty. But 2 for 7 on the power play. They need to get better at that.
Yeah, well, they did mix it up a little bit though. They didn't keep the normal first line power play and the normal second line power play. They kind of mixed it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not saying that's any reason. But
Saskatchewan Saskatchewan went 1 for 4 in the power play, which just showed to me that they were more trying to get out of the game unscathed.
Unscathed, yeah. So,
but yeah. That being said, the 3 stars of the game was Mark Matthews, obviously, with his record-breaking events.
Mm-hmm.
And McIntosh is the second star, and Holden Katoni, who is becoming a star in this league, because this isn't the first time he's gotten 4 goals.
No.
He was the catalyst in that Buffalo debacle a few weeks back. And there's been a couple of times where he's just gone off on teams and scored in bunches. And watching him in the summertime, he is that explosive. This isn't a fluke. And he's going to be a very viable commodity for Calgary in the playoffs. And I think that Colorado's going to have a very difficult time defending him as well as Dobby and Dixon.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a hard time altogether. But yeah, so Saskatchewan has off for this week. Their playoff game, the Western Championship. The date has been moved and has been changed. It is no longer next Thursday night at 9:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central. It has now been moved to 5 p.m. I think it's Eastern time. I believe they have it, or local time. I don't know. I know it's been changed to 5 o'clock next Sunday. So they have a game on Sunday. And I believe it is 5 o'clock Eastern time, because they usually list the games Eastern time. That's what they usually do. And I'm trying to see where, because I know they had an article on it, but they don't. I don't see it on here. But I know they did change it. I remember them saying it was going to be at 5 o'clock. So. Most likely that's Eastern time, which would be 3 o'clock out there in Saskatchewan next Sunday. So it's not going to be during the week. So that's good for them. They'll get a nice size crowd out there as normal.
They're going to get a good crowd anyways. They have 11,000 season ticket holders.
Yeah, and Calgary will go ahead and they will face Colorado, which they knew. For a long time, that's who they were going to be facing. They were going to be facing the Colorado Mammoth. Now, the last game that we had was Georgia at New England. And this was a game where the winner of the game would get first place and get the first round bye, because a New England win would have put them at 10-8, same record as Georgia, and they would win the season series because they played each other twice so far, each team winning a game. Well, what Georgia did to them was basically what New England did to Rochester the week before. Georgia came right on out, and the whole first quarter was them, 5-1. Before you know it, boom, 5-0. You're looking,
including 2 shorthanded goals.
Yes. And you're looking at it like, oh my God, what's going to happen now? How are they going to hit 20 plus? What's going to happen? Then Kyle Buchanan finally gets the goal, make it 5-1, with just a little bit over 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. Second quarter starts, Georgia takes that off because New England puts up a 6th spot. And we go into the half tied at 7-7, but before the half, at 12:06 on the power play, Kevin Crowley notched his 50th goal of the year. A goal that kind of avoided him the week prior in Rochester, as they were double teaming him at different points. Then when he had a penalty shot, he missed on the penalty shot. So obviously he was happy to get goal number 50, but I think he would trade that in for a win instead. But congratulations to Kevin for hitting that milestone. His career high was 45 goals, so he obviously surpassed that. He ended up with 51 for the entire season and being the leader in the league in goals. So New England goes in, with Georgia tied at 7. They outscored them 6-2 in that second quarter. Now they come back out, and the third quarter was just like the first quarter. Georgia puts up 5, New England puts up 1. They put the one goal up that was sandwiched in between Georgia's 5 goals. And now you're looking at a 12-7 game, or 12-8 game at this point in time. And Gary, we've said this a number of times, you get down by, 4 more goals, you got to outscore your opponents 4-0 in that quarter just to earn the tie. Okay? And when you're playing against a team like Georgia and you know what the game means, yes, you're already in the playoffs, but you get a first round bye, get the bones to heal up a little bit, get the muscles to, get back to where they should be. It just seemed like they said, oh, well, wait a minute, if we lose and we end up in third, we're going to play Rochester, a team that we beat so far. We beat all 3 times this year. Maybe that's what they were thinking. I don't know. But in the fourth quarter, much more the same. Georgia came out scoring the first 3 of that quarter, opening up a 15-9 lead. You're looking at 12-8 going into the fourth, where Jordan Hall scored the last 2 goals of the third quarter. Okay, another killer out there. Okay, everybody has given up on Jordan Hall here and there on different teams, and somehow he always manages to come back. He scored a goal with less than 3 seconds to go to give him that 12-8 lead. And then Matisse, Jackson, and Matisse again, all in a row for Georgia within the first 5 minutes, puts them up by 6. So now you're up by 6 with 10 minutes to go. Right then and there, it seemed like New England was going through the motions. Just to say, look, let's just finish this. Let's not get hurt. Let's just say, okay, we're fine with losing this game. We're going to play Rochester next week. Because then Kevin Crowley would score at 5:42 on the power play, his 51st of the year. But then Miles Thompson would score again at 8.5 minutes. And then Colton Watkinson would score the final goal for the Black Wolves, and you'd have a 16-11 win for Georgia, giving them a first-round bye as they were the number 1 seed in the East. Rochester finished second, and then New England comes in at third. So now you look at the shots on goal, 52-48 in favor of New England. Loose balls, 80-63, and face-offs 20-10, both in favor of New England. Power play, New England was 4 for 7. Georgia was 0 for 1. So New England, I guess you could say, was kind of behaving themselves. They only picked up 2 penalties in the game. One in the very beginning, in the first 2 minutes, and then one in the last. Oh no, I'm sorry. They had three penalties. They had a bench minor for bad substitution in there as well. And then one towards the very end, the holding on Brett Manny at 12:24. But Georgia was unsuccessful on the power play. Georgia went 4 for 7, but yet Georgia got two shorties on them. So, typical Georgia. The Thompsons, Gary, look like they've come out to play. Miles Thompson 2-3, Lyle Thompson 4-4.
This is the time when you'll see them start waking up.
Yeah.
Just in time.
Yeah, so they combined for 6 goals and 7 assists between the two. That's scary. Jesse King 1 and 2, Jordan Hall with a deuce on each side. Same thing with Shane Jackson, Kyle Matisse 2 and 3, and Randy Stotts 2 and 5. On the New England side, and this is what is going to worry me going into the playoff game. You got Kyle Buchanan, 4 goals, 2 assists. Caleb Crawford, 1 goal, 3 assists. Stefan LeBlanc, 2 and 5, which is what they need, but I'd like to see a couple more goals from LeBlanc, and instead of that many assists, he's there to try to get those goals there. But then you're looking at Colton Watkinson with 2 goals and Kevin Crowley with just 2 goals. So in the last 2 games, Kevin Crowley has 2 goals and 5 assists. Okay? And Gary, we talked about this, and I said what Rochester was going to do, and Georgia did the same thing. They're sliding that second man over to tie up Crowley's hands. Okay? They did this in Rochester, and they were successful, but Aaron Bold stood on his head, and the other players, the Kyle Buchanans and Stefan LeBlancs, came out and scored the goals and pushed them to an 11-6 win. Now I'm going to go right into the playoff matchup. New England at Rochester. New England has beaten them in all 3 games during the regular season this year. Rochester has only put up a total of 23 goals against New England in those 3 games. 2 of them in Rochester. This game, though, I know from seeing them in the past, you know it as well. As you mentioned, regular season Rochester and playoff Rochester, 2 different animals.
Completely.
Yes, Matt Vince is going to be in playoff mode. This is in their barn. A win in this game, in this playoff game, will most likely rip the roof off the Blue Cross Arena. Yeah, I mean it's going to, really, just tear off. It'll take care of. Oh, so we lost all 3 to them, but we beat them when it matters. Because I actually think that if Rochester wins this game against New England, they could go into Georgia and beat Georgia.
Yeah, I don't doubt that either.
That's what I really think, and I think Georgia is hoping for New England to win because they know how they need to play them. They really do. As much as I would like to see New England move forward, and I think they can, I think they could do that. The last 2 games that I saw what Rochester did, and so what Georgia did with Crowley, tying him up, limiting Crawford to just a goal. I think playoff Rochester is going to be a very, very tough animal to beat. And I think Rochester is going to win this game, and it could be by a score that they fell to New England by like 11-6 or 12-7. It's going to be a game of that nature. I don't think New England gets past 10 goals in this game. I really don't, because I was hoping to see something from Crowley, something not saying that he wasn't doing anything, but something where the offense or the coaching staff would do something to free him up more. Because Georgia did the same thing Rochester did. They slid a second and sometimes a third guy over on him and not let him get his hands free. I was hoping to see something where they would work on some kind of a system that let him get that freedom, but they didn't. So that's what's kind of worrying me. The inability of Crawford to really start putting up 3 goals consistently, 2-3 goals consistently is worrying me. And I don't think you could count on Kyle Buchanan to constantly give you 4 goals every single game. That's not going to happen. And I just think Matt Vince is going to stand on his head. I'm pretty sure Aaron Bowe's going to have the game of his life as well. But I just think the Rochester offense is just going to be a little bit too much.
I agree. I think Rochester is going to be the champion in this thing. On paper, I give it to Rochester too. I think their scoring punch is better, is more consistent. Mm-hmm. Defensively, we've talked about Rochester all year long, and now we got Bold against Vince, which is a great matchup. I give the edge to Vince, especially at home, and with the defense in front of him. There's the keys.
Yeah.
I do not see New England putting together a stellar performance to get by playoff Rochester.
No. I think the last time Bold and Vince faced each other in the playoffs was when Rochester won the championship. When they were when Edmonton was up 6-1 at the half in that game, and they ended up losing 9-7.
Yeah. So I say my money is on Rochester in this game.
Yeah, I just think the depth is there. I mean, I like to see New England win solely because of 2 players that are on there that I'm pretty good friends with. I like to see them advance, and get to the big game. I really would. But speaking as we are doing, our podcast and everything, just like you said, the depth on Rochester's offense, when you just look at it, it's just up and down. You're looking at Cody Jamieson, Kyle Jackson. I mean, you could even throw in Scott Campbell because he's always good for a goal or 2 halftime on transition. As crazy as that sounds, Corey Vitarelli. You got Withers on the face-offs. Who's winning like crazy. Joe Resetaris, Austin Shanks. Yeah, you have that there. Okay, players that are consistent, and it's going to be real tough. And that game's going to be tomorrow night. That's at 7:30 tomorrow night in Rochester. It's on a Friday night, and I wish it was on Saturday so I can go. The next game that we have, Calgary at Colorado. This is the 9th time that they have faced each other since Colorado has won the championship in 2006. And Gary, we've talked about this so many times. Colorado cannot get over the first round playoff hump. They did last year, and that's why Colorado is now 1-7 against Calgary in the first round of the playoffs. I mean, Calgary has owned them in the playoffs. It doesn't matter where this game is. They just seem to beat them. And Colorado has a problem getting over this first round hump. I don't know where I'm going to go with this game because you have the experience in Dylan Ward in the net, but you also have the young star Christian Del Bianco for Calgary. You got Curtis Dixon hitting his stride right there. You got Dane Doby. He's hitting his. I mean, you just have a load of players there. Colorado's the same thing, but I don't think they're as deep as Calgary is, and that's where I think the problem is. You look at the scoring for these teams, and it's. I'm trying to. I hate when they do this. Here we go. That's what I want. You go to hit the standings and they give you the whatchamacallit, the playoff standings, and that's not what I wanted. I just wanted the regular season team standings, and it's not giving it to me. The scoring for them is, I'm trying to see where it is here, and it's not letting. This is now getting to me.
I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not letting me bring it up, but I just think the depth on Calgary is a lot better than the depth on Colorado. You don't know what you're going to get out of Zach Greer. Okay, he came live in the last game. Stephen
Calgary actually outscored Colorado 227 to 214 this year.
There you go. That's what I was looking for.
And goals against, Calgary gave up 12 more goals. They gave up 211. Colorado gave up 199.
Okay, so Calgary's on the minus end on defensive wise, but they're 13 more on the offense. So 13 more on the offense and 12 worse on the defense. So it's like a 1-goal difference. The game
I'll say Colorado is a plus 15, plus 16 for Calgary overall. So very, very close.
Yeah. I don't know what. To be honest with you,
my gut tells me to go with Calgary.
That's what I'm thinking, just because of past history.
I'm just thinking about the past couple of weeks. I've watched Colorado had a 4-game losing streak, and the only one they won, they gave up 15 goals for the defensive juggernaut that they are. I've watched Calgary just whip teams, and teams that they weren't even supposed to be in the ball game with lose by a goal. So Calgary's defense is looking sharp. Del Bianco, I don't know why they didn't stumble upon this sooner. He's been the savior in net. And offensively, between Dobby, Dixon, and Cantoni, they're clicking huge.
Yeah, but you still got one big factor on Colorado, and that's Dylan Ward. He gave
up 15 goals to the Rock, so if anybody's watching tape, take a look.
Yeah, I just think he's going to hit a certain switch for the playoffs. I really do.
He might, but I don't buy it. I'm going with Calgary.
Calgary, yeah. I'm on that same wavelength, and plus with past history, just knowing that it just seems like when the playoffs come around, that Calgary just does something. I mean, they find a way.
Well, you know what? Whoever wins, it's going to be tough to play in the Loud House and all that. Well, if Calgary wants to win the damn thing, you know what? After the Loud House comes the Louder House out in Saskatchewan, so they better get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, so we're both going with, I guess you could say, the underdogs in a way, because Colorado owned the season series over Calgary, and we're going Calgary on this, and then New England owned the season series over Rochester, and we're both going with Rochester in this. Now, we know when the Saskatchewan game would be that would be next Sunday. They would face the winner of Calgary, Colorado, and it would obviously be in Saskatchewan. That's going to be Sunday. No doubt, the Eastern Division game will most likely be on Saturday. That's not going to be on Sunday. We know that. It's be on Saturday. Georgia will face the winner of New England and Rochester. We know that they own the season series over New England 2-1, but they lost the season series to Rochester. So it's very possible, if it goes the way I'm thinking, we could have a Rochester-Saskatchewan best-of-3 final, which would be a very interesting final in that. But that's obviously going to be a few weeks away. We have to get past the first round here. But as I said, both Gary and I are going with Calgary over Colorado, and also Rochester over New England. Now, New England game is tomorrow night at 7:30. Calgary and Colorado is Saturday at 9 p.m., both Eastern time. I don't know if one of them is the Twitter game. I don't see anything about any.
I'm not even sure if they do a Twitter game for the...
No, I don't think they are.
Which would be stupid. It's a good opportunity to play both of them.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if they had something on there. But Gary, one thing I wanted to ask you: what do you think of the new trophy?
It's about time. We need to revamp one.
Yeah, but I kind of like
it. It's an interesting design. I'm sure if you throw enough beers in there, you can drink out of it too.
It looks like you can.
It looks like a hollow center.
Yeah, it looks like you could drink out of it because it looks like the middle is hollowed out.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's a sharp-looking trophy, and it goes with the motif of the league.
Yeah.
The 4-point star.
Yeah, that's
it's time. This league is moving into the future. The trophies need to move into the future as well.
Yeah.
And this one might be a little bit lighter than the other one.
It might be. It may not. I don't know. As long as you can drink out of it, that'll be good.
Yeah.
So we have that. We have the games. As the playoffs go on, and as the playoffs go, as we come to the middle of the month, anywhere between that point and the very beginning of June, you're going to have the coin flip for the expansion draft. And again, the winner of that coin flip will decide whether they want to go first in the expansion draft or in the entry draft. You cannot have first pick in both. So that's where the teams are going to have to decide. Philadelphia wins the coin flip. Okay, do you want to pick first in the expansion or first in the entry draft? Me personally, I would go entry draft only because you know what certain players are going to want to stay out west. So San Diego is probably going to take let's just say if Zach Greer is left unprotected, San Diego is going to go after him. So that if you're Philadelphia, you don't have to worry about Zach Greer because he ain't going to come east. So you'd be better off getting your first pick in the entry draft. So we'll see how all that comes about. We'll see how the lists come out of who's going to be protected, who's free agent, and then Gary, we could have fun, picking, making up our own lists of who we think's going to be selected from each team, and the maximum number is 2 that each team can lose. So we should have some fun with that, as well as the playoffs and what's going on, because we said this a number of times. Playoffs are a different animal, and for those not familiar with it, when you tune into the game this weekend, you're going to see a totally different Rochester team, and you're going to see a totally different Calgary team. You really are. I mean, it just amazes me what they can do with Colorado every year. I don't understand it. I don't know what they have over them, but but they have something. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
And
it's going to be a very, very interesting time.
Yeah, I mean, they got over the hump last year, but I don't know. Like you said, Gary, the way Calgary's played the last 4 games, they just, they totally walked all over Vancouver in that game. They came out and did what they had to do. They almost beat Saskatchewan in the last game of the year. They're putting it all together at the right moment, and Colorado has struggled. People can say, "Oh, well, Colorado already had second place wrapped up. They knew, they just didn't want to get hurt or whatever." But there's a difference of not getting hurt and then getting caught in what I like to call quicksand, where you find yourself constantly playing this way, and then you can't get out of it. You end up playing, let's just go through the motions, so to speak, okay? Then you find yourself, when it's playoff time, you're still doing that. And that's something that you don't want to do, and that's what Calgary stayed away from. Okay, they knew how to turn it on and take a step out of that quicksand. Colorado is still in that quicksand. So I don't know how they're going to go about getting out of it. I really don't. I mean, Dylan Ward is there. He's only going to be able to do so much. That's one game I'm looking forward to seeing. So we're in for a couple exciting games, and then we'll see what happens, with the matchups for next week.
Definitely.
At least we don't have to worry about doing a show on Wednesday now, because the game has been moved. Mm-hmm. And what I'd like to know from the big green monster in Saskatchewan is if he's going to make an appearance here in Philly, should the Rush have to come to Philly to play. I think that would be quite interesting, seeing him in the Wells Fargo Center. Mm-hmm. See how well he's accepted there. Well, he wouldn't have anything to worry about. I'd have his back on it. Philly fans would have, some of the Philly fans would have his back. Some of us know it's all in fun. So, that being said, Gary, that's another end of the regular season. We now go forward into the postseason. Some of the other leagues have already started. The MLL has started up already. So some of these players have already switched over, to get with their outdoor league, and some of the other summer leagues are going to get started real soon. WLA and the MSL. So things are going to be quite interesting, especially with, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe, with Brampton.
Yeah, there's going to be a few things there. There's going to be a few things with Brooklyn.
Yep. I
don't know what kind of team Peterborough is going to feed.
Yeah. So things are going to be a little bit interesting in the MSL this year, especially after what we talked about last year. So, it's going to be an interesting summer, with all the stuff going on, and with the Combine going to 5 different cities this year. Give the cities a look at, the players, the stars that are coming out. So it should be fun. So as we said in the beginning of the year, buckle up. You're in for a long ride. You really are. So, guys. No, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, most definitely. You're in for the ride of your life. The summer is going to be almost as interesting as the winter. Yeah.
We'll get to see who goes in the expansion draft, who's going to change addresses, what free agent signings there are, which is going to
be almost as interesting as the draft itself.
Yeah, the expansion draft or the regular draft.
So many teams played the one-year contract thing so they wouldn't have to worry about protecting players.
Right.
And now you're going to have a slew of free agents come August 1st that can sign anywhere.
Yeah.
So if they weren't happy with what they saw this year, watch the mass exodus.
Yeah. I mean, we know Corey Small is coming east. He's not a free agent, though. So.
No, that's the tricky ones. That's one that actually, do they leave him unprotected or do they try and get value for him? Or both? I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to try and trade his rights for a draft pick down the road in the other draft.
Yeah, I think they're going to try to trade his rights away because, we heard them say that they're just not going to give him away.
Right.
So they're obviously going to protect him, from what it sounds like. And I think what's going to happen is a lot of these teams are going to hold out to the possible very last second to do any kind of a trade, I think. only because they know they know he's not going to go back there. So, they're going to wait to the last possible moment and then, put up a trade, and Vancouver will get some of what they want, but not all of what they want. So let's see where he goes. Like we said earlier, we know Bill O'Brien's a free agent. Will he re-sign with Buffalo? Will he sign somewhere else? July 1st is the courting period, we'll say, where you can talk to every free agent, bring them into your city, what have you. When I mean every team, that includes Philadelphia and San Diego. So on July 1st is when Philly and San Diego can start doing what they want to do with talking to players and things of that nature. So before free agent signing, we will have the expansion draft. So we'll see what's going to happen there. Because right after the expansion draft, August 1st, you can sign free agents. And then another month after that, month and a half, actually, you have the draft. I believe September 17th is a Monday. And that's when the draft will be, because the 15th is the last day of the combine out at the track in September. So you're going to have the combine in 5 different cities, Philly being one of them on September 9th. So things are going to be, really kind of interesting. You get to see what stars are coming out, and certain college players didn't get drafted last year, or even ones that got cut. Because there was only 9 teams, now you got 11. We may see a Matt Rambo, a Dylan Malloy, come out. So who knows? It's going to be something. We're going to see certain goalies get picked, certain ones that don't, and then what are teams going to do with them? If you leave, we'll just say Frank Siciliano available, and nobody takes him, what does Calgary do? Do they go ahead and just release him and grab somebody, or they have somebody in your system? What's Toronto, on that end, you have Brandon Miller, and who was the backup, Gary? The other backup.
The backup?
Yes.
Well, you got Riley Hutchcraft for Toronto.
Hutchcraft, yeah. So, and obviously
he's the future. So
right.
They're not going to look for something like a Scigliano.
Right, but I mean, you have
Vancouver
him.
And since he works in the Vancouver, in the BC area, that might be a place for him to land.
Right, but I mean, you have Hutchcraft. Toronto ain't going to get rid of him. You got Nick Rose as your goalie, so they're going to obviously leave Brandon Miller unprotected.
No, Jamie said clear that Rosie is his guy.
Right. So
he's also the track manager, so he's going nowhere.
Right. So obviously Brandon Miller would be left exposed. If nobody picks him up, is he bringing him back for tryout to see if he can make the team? And Hutchcraft will still be the practice squad, or get in, or dress maybe for half the games, or what have you, or do they just tell Brandon, hey, look, thank you, we're letting you go? So there's a lot of questions out there with certain players. What's going to happen? With like we said, Brandon Miller and Frank Siciliano, and you look out at Vancouver, their goalies. Who's going to want them? It's going to be interesting. It really is. A lot of people saying, why this, why that? Well, this is what happens when you have 2 teams coming in, and then after that, next summer, there's supposed to be 2 more teams coming in. We mentioned it before. Halifax already has their name in with the Copyright Office, the Halifax Privateers.
Yeah, they just played in the Rimouski tournament.
Yeah.
The Privateers.
Yeah. So, they have that down as an NLL name, so they may be coming in next summer. The summer of 2019. So who knows? You could be going through this whole thing all over again next year, too, with 2 more teams. So we'll just have to, wait and see, what happens. So with that being said, we're going to end the show now. 2 big playoff games this weekend. New England's at Rochester tomorrow night, 7:30, and then Calgary at Colorado on Saturday at 9:30. Again, Calgary is 7-1 against. 9 o'clock for the Calgary-Colorado game on Saturday night. Calgary's 7-1 against Colorado in the last 8 appearances in the playoffs. So you can see why we're going that way. So as Gary said and I said, buckle up. It's going to be a long ride. So for Gary Group at laxphilly.com, I'm Rocco Granado from InLaCrosseWeTrust.com. We'll see everybody here again next week.